Recently, 6ix9ine was found guilty of killing his lover, Ariela Lang Costa Mejia Polano. But the reality is far more sinister. The twisted details, such as her execution on a New York highway and the feds learning how his history of snitching led to it all, will astound you. I get the core notion. Let's analyze it. He had blood on his hands. His federal collaboration agreement made you all think this snake was invincible. But the streets are usually the ones collecting the debts. And now the system has finally caught up to Daniel Hernandez's blood-soaked hands. Ariela Lang Costa, also known as Maya Polano, was found shot in her Mercedes truck on the 17th of August 2025. About 700,000 people followed 33-year-old Shorty, a Dominican woman, everywhere she went. As she collected bags and popped bottles at the hippest spots in New York, such as Opus Lounge and Icon, she thought she was living the good life. She was really the kind of badass that had boys breaking their necks when she was going through. But this beautiful woman was unaware that if she kept playing with the most notorious snitch in hip-hop, she would be shot. The pigs testified that this was a straight-hit operation. I mean, who unintentionally puts more than one slug on their chest?
Ariela Langosta, a social media star and mother with romantic ties to rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine, murdered. The 33-year-old, who had nearly 700,000 followers, was found shot dead inside her vehicle along a busy road just north of the Bronx early Sunday morning. Investigators believe she was targeted.
Let us now talk about the true depth of this rabbit hole, because this story is darker than a night in the trap without the moon. Ariela was featured heavily in the 2023 WAP music video for 6ix9ine, effectively making her the focus of every enemy the man has ever made. This was no careless business choice. Sources claim that their romantic relationships extended well beyond director and talent. But you understand how these streets work. Whether you are his friend, girlfriend, or simply someone who happened to catch him in the act, it makes no difference. Guilt by association is a life sentence when it comes to snitches like Tekashi.
You supported me in everything. New York won't ever be the same. I loved you.
For those were not the words of a casual friend. That man was mourning over someone who held great significance in his life. She was his sister. He said, "A magnificent woman and the Queen of New York portrayed genuine love and loss in a series of Instagram photos." But in 6ix9ine's universe, love comes at a price, and that price is represented by blood. The timetable of fear tells the entire story. Ariela had been in 6ix9ine's dangerous world before. 9 members of the Trey Gangster Bloods, reportedly, kidnapped her in 2018 because they believed she was one of his girlfriends. Think about that for a moment. The woman who almost died years ago seems to be someone who might be related to the rat. But instead of learning from that near-death experience, she grew even more absorbed in it. The streets never forget anything, and never forgive. When 6ix9ine testified against the 9 Trey Bloods in 2019, he did more than just leave his group. Everyone in his near proximity was portrayed as a target by him. The hood is unable to distinguish between the snitch and his loved ones. To them, guilt by association is a serious punishment. Westchester County Police made it clear that this was not an act of random violence, but rather a targeted attack. Only months before, she had been showing off her expensive Mercedes on social media, and they found her despondent while driving it. It's oppressive, the irony. She boasted about her accomplishment on the internet, not realizing that she was advertising her location to murderers who had been pursuing her. Watching, waiting for the right moment to come. Online rumors expose the real story that the police refused to tell. Social media posts abound that directly link 6ix9ine's snitching to her demise. Information on 6ix9ine's girlfriend's suspected gunshot death is being shared by users. It was a targeted strike, authorities said. The streets are aware of what the authorities refused to reveal. This was simple retaliation. However, this is where it gets even darker. Some publications claim that her boyfriend, not a Cartier, is the real target. Cartier was a marked man, according to rumors, since he was spying on other people. If it's true, Ariella died after getting caught in the crossfire of multiple rats. In an informant war, innocent individuals are used as collateral. The tributes from her workplaces create a heartbreaking picture of a woman who didn't deserve this destiny. When Icon New York wrote, "We lost our shining star today. It was still hard for us to believe. Our happiness and pleasure came from you. We adore you and will always miss you, but we are temporarily closed out of respect for you." These were not corporate condolences. These were real people who were mourning a coworker who brought joy to their lives. When A-list celebrities honor your passing, it means that your story has transcended the streets. Cardi B even paid tribute on social media, writing, "R.I.P. Dominican Pretty." It became a warning about the expense of running alongside rats.
Another New York native, Cardi B, mourned Ariella with this photo, adding, "Rest in peace, Dominican Pretty."
The probe itself can tell us everything we need to know about the seriousness of this condition. They know that this was not just a case of street-level fighting gone wrong, since local, state, and federal agencies are collaborating on this case. The federal government intervenes because it understands the repercussions. Something much more dangerous and terrible was connected to this murder. Ariella's most recent social media post, in which she claimed to feel happy and blessed, only serves to heighten the unease. She didn't know she was about to die, as she counted her blessings. Killers began counting bullets. It is an eerie contrast. The woman was living her life without realizing that her encounter with a rodent had damned her to death. The Dominican community lost one of its brightest talents. The hip-hop community has been reminded once again that having 6ix9ine in your life is a death sentence that is just waiting to be carried out. From bartender to social media celebrity, Ariella amassed a following on social media thanks to her hustling, charm, and beauty. She deserved to live to see the expansion of her accomplishment, even though 6ix9ine's poison affected and ended her life. As we go deeper into this narrative, keep in mind that it is about more than the tragic loss of a single individual. It relates to a harmful trend that follows 6ix9ine everywhere he goes. In the streets of Brooklyn and the nightclubs of Manhattan, his snitching has resulted in a trail of lives lost and destroyed. Mahia Polano is the most recent casualty of the struggle that began when Ariella Daniel Hernandez of Lancosta decided that his freedom was more important than the lives of others. The pattern of destruction, Sarah Molina's suffering. Before Ariella became the newest corpse in 6ix9ine cemetery, there was Sarah Molina, the mother of his seed. The broad who knew him before the rainbow hair and facial tats, and the first woman to see the full scope of Daniel Hernandez's capacity for straight destruction. If you want to understand how this serpent makes the females who love him the most into his victims, then Sarah's story is the template for all others. Sarah first met him between 2011 and 2012, when he was 18 and she was just 15 or 16. This was not some cutesy teenage romance. This was the beginning of a 7-year nightmare that would leave a child stuck in the midst and a mom severely damaged. Sarah actually contributed to the creation of the monster that the world would come to hate, even helping him paint his hair rainbow hues in 2013 at a Williamsburg salon. Shorty was there when the Tekashi demon was formed, but she was unaware that she was helping to create her own personal devil, which would haunt her for years. The fighting started early and didn't stop. No cap. Throughout their relationship, Sarah Ben detailed multiple instances of physical and sexual assault, typically caused by this neurotic man's fears and envy. But this was no ordinary story of domestic violence. This unrelenting torture was meant to break her spirit and keep her trapped in her own life. On a trip to Dubai, the most horrific incident, which sounded like something from a straight horror movie, took place. Sarah explained in detail how 6ix9ine accused her of meddling with his manager. Shotty acknowledged slamming around 70 women before repeatedly hitting her for 2 hours. The violence that follows is incompatible with all that is morally just in this world. He punches me out of the blue. My hands were covered in blood. There was blood on the pillowcases at the motel. He started to get scared. My face was severely swollen. It was terrible. I struggled to open my eyes. Sarah told the world that this rainbow-haired devil was a monster in a 2019 interview, but the details get far worse than that. She reportedly thought she might lose her hearing after this. Madmen punched her ears so hard, covered her face with a pillow, and kicked her like a dog, realizing that she was. He had her spend the next morning with him after choking her senselessly out of fear that she might suffocate. Shorty awoke with 2 black eyes, a purple-black ear, and bruises on her arms and back. This was not a moment of rage. He was subjected to intentional torment by a straight demon. But this is what makes 6ix9ine's psychological warfare even more difficult. This man consistently admitted the abuse, even in court documents. During his 2019 cooperation agreement, when he was spying on everyone. In a 2020 interview with the New York Times, he even acknowledged that we did have physical fights. This is the worst thing imaginable. But I'm not going to sit there and lie to you. I was successful. I acknowledge my apologies. The hip-hop industry gave this guy a platform and record deals, despite his admission that he was a woman-beating demon. That's the power of celebrity culture, my man. You can keep harassing women and getting streams as long as your statistics are high enough to make money for these labels. Sarah's observation of the abduction shows how deep 6ix9ine's dangerous way of life affected everyone around him. See Sarah's testimony in this video on the night this rat was abducted by numerous members of his own gang.
So his career is building up, and he starts to basically beef with everybody. He starts to troll and beef with guys in Houston, guys in LA, guys in Chicago. Like, it's just, there's a long laundry list of people that he's telling to suck his dick and everything else like that. How are you taking all this? Because along with the trolling, you know, things are happening. Like, shows are getting canceled. You know, there's incidents that are happening along the way.
Sarah's account of that night demonstrates how 6ix9ine's reckless behavior put his family in immediate danger. She describes how he called her at around 3 in the morning and quickly asked where his daughter was after instructing her to bring his diamonds downstairs. She had no idea that she would be coerced into taking part in a gang extortion.
He picks up a FaceTime call and he's in a car, like in the back seat, and I see his eye bloody and his face is so swollen. And I'm crying. I'm like, yo, what's going on? And someone in a car was like, oh, you want us to take you back home? And he was like, no, don't take me back home. They're trying to kill me.
Consider this. Sarah stood in a towel and was forced to deliver thousands of dollars worth of jewelry to strangers wearing masks while her baby daughter slept upstairs. The kidnappers were his own 9-member trade gang, led by Anthony Harv Ellison, who pistol-whipped 6ix9ine and stole jewels valued at $365,000 from him. Sarah was influenced by 6ix9ine's choices, even though she had never made that choice for herself. They continued to fight each other psychologically even after their romance ended. Sarah called him a deadbeat parent, pointing out that he barely spent 2 days with their daughter Soraya after being released from prison. While he was flaunting his wealth and spending money on other partners, his own child was struggling since she was not receiving enough support from her father. In 2021, Sarah sued for child support, claiming that 6ix9ine was squandering money on his new partner Jade while neglecting Soraya. The pattern is clear. 6ix9ine exploits women, destroys their lives, and then discards them when they become inconvenient. Sarah was subjected to abuse, mistreatment, desertion, and public humiliation. Steve's act of giving Sarah and Soraya money and a Birkin bag while calling 6ix9ine a rat and abuser in 2024 is the most telling example. When anonymous YouTubers are taking better care of your child than you are a deadbeat, that's not. That's what sociopathic neglect is. Sarah's perceptions of their connection reveal the depth of the deceit. I lost my identity. He hasn't interacted with our daughter in any way. This was more than just physical abuse. 6ix9ine deliberately damaged her identity, feeling of worth, and faith in her own judgment. The history of their relationship reads like a case study on domestic terrorism. When Sarah was just 15 years old in 2012, she met 18-year-old Daniel Hernandez. In 2013, she helped create the Tekashi persona by giving his hair a rainbow hue. Sarah, their daughter, was born in October 2015. Countless examples of rising physical and sexual violence. She had 2 black eyes and was afraid for her life after the beating in Dubai. November 2018. The connection eventually ends around the time of 6ix9ine's incarceration and the ongoing present-day child support and custody battles. The sorrow of Sarah's narrative is heightened by the fact that she genuinely loved him. In her interview, she talks about her attempts to support his musical career, her presence during his transformation, and her belief that deep he was just. Danny, when she fell in love with him, one of the hallmarks of an abuse victim is their tendency to justify the abuser while recording the violence. 6ix9ine's complete lack of remorse or accountability is further demonstrated by the fact that their relationship ended in the public eye. As late as 2023, Sarah said that his gym attack was embarrassing for their daughter, illustrating how his ongoing negligence affects both him and their joint child. Sarah Molina's tale is not simply about one woman fleeing domestic violence. It's a preview of what any woman who approaches 6ix9ine will find. There is a recurring pattern. Charm and attention rank top, followed by control and seclusion, violence and mental suffering, and finally abandonment and public shame. Sarah just managed to get through it. Ariella had no chance to escape before the cruelty of 6ix9ine's world caught up with her forever. The fact that Sarah's story occurred years before 6ix9ine became an FBI informant makes it especially horrifying. Just imagine what he would turn into if he had the backing of federal protection, notoriety, and financial gain. He could be as violent and cunning as an impoverished musician on SoundCloud. Sarah witnessed the beast's first manifestation. When Ariella came into full contact with it, he was killed. After the fall, the bodies were left behind. Every lie-based enterprise eventually collapses, and Daniel Hernandez's house of cards collapsed on November 18, 2018, when federal agents showed up at his door. However, unlike other falls from grace, 6ix9ine's journey into notoriety involved more than just losing money and notoriety. To become the most hated guy in hip-hop and turn everyone around him into a target was the aim. The dead started to fall long before Ariella, and they haven't stopped yet. The federal racketeering action that destroyed 6ix9ine's career was based on his own admissions of violence and wrongdoing. This was no gullible child who hung around with the wrong crowd. He took an active part in armed robberies, drug trafficking, and attempted murders. By using hundreds of thousands of dollars from his music royalties to finance the 9 Trey Gangster Bloods, he successfully utilized his success as a rapper to promote a criminal organization. But when the chips were down, 6ix9ine came out as himself when he found out he might be sentenced to 47 years in prison. On Sunday morning, he turned over faster than a pancake. Watch him as he explains his reasoning in his own words.
Let me put this in perspective and really follow me here. Imagine I would have stood tall, right? Kept it real, did the 47 years right now. Right?
Well, you wouldn't be on the podcast, that's for sure.
Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to get.
Their self-centeredness is astounding. He blamed killing people and breaching street laws on the fact that He couldn't bear the thought of losing out on publicity and podcasts. But his cooperation went beyond merely escaping incarceration. He was a master lesson in how he threw everyone under the bus to keep himself safe. 6ix9ine's testimony led to the 24-year conviction of multiple 9 Trey members, including high-ranking executives like Anthony Harv Ellison, Algerin Nuke Mac, 17, and Kano Shati Jordan, 15, his manager. These were more than just names from a government database. 6ix9ine's belief that his independence was more essential than their loyalty destroyed the lives of these real people. But this is what makes his snitching even more egregious. He liked it. Listen to what he says about the time he decided to cooperate.
All right, so first night you get to jail, what'd that feel like?
First night I got locked up, I watched Lone Survivor, and I was like, I'm definitely snitching, right?
That isn't a man having a hard time making a decision. That person was keen to defraud everyone who had trusted him. He made his choice before he truly understood what he was facing. The no snitching code means nothing to someone who never had any beliefs in the first place. 6ix9ine's list of defendants is similar to a hip-hop who's who. He accused Jim Jones of belonging to the 9 Trey and accused Cardi B of having ties to the Blood Set, despite the fact that he was not charged. After Kent Audeby McKenzie described ordering a $20,000 hit on Chief Keef, he was convicted of the attempted shooting. The irony of his street cred was ruthlessly exposed when WAC 100 challenged him about his fake gang affiliations.
How many fights you had? How many times you had to stand up in this when the odds was against
What you mean, when the whole racketeering
How
case was
many
going on?
the rack before the
that?
racketeer?
None, because I wasn't in the blood.
What you mean?
I wasn't a blood.
I wasn't a blood. He was never really introduced to the game, 6ix9ine admitted. As a wealthy civilian, he merely bought his way into their protection. However, his phony street credibility cost real people their freedom when he decided to protect himself by disclosing what he knew. The renowned snitch became a new kind of celebrity as a result of his cooperation. Artists like Snoop Dogg, Meek Mill, and Future publicly called him a rat, demonstrating that he was no longer desired in the hip-hop industry. But 6ix9ine wasn't content to just accept his exile. He stepped up his efforts by writing songs that celebrated his snitching and made fun of his former coworkers. But I'm trying to explain it. Listen, I don't give a damn whether I'm held accountable for what I did. I snitched, and I was proud of it. That's right. The level of shamelessness that resulted was unprecedented in hip-hop culture. A spy who refused to go without saying anything. Instead, 6ix9ine persisted in producing music, keeping a high profile, putting everyone around him at risk by association. His cooperation created lifelong adversaries, as seen by the horrifying events that followed his release. In March 2023, he was brutally attacked by members of the Latin Kings in a Florida gym sauna. His injuries were so bad that he sued LA Fitness for $1 million in negligence. 50 Cent tried to warn 6ix9ine about his reckless behavior, but he would not listen. His ego and need for attention frequently overrode his basic survival instincts. His unapproved outings led to several probation violations, culminating in an arrest in 2024 for failing drug tests and illegally entering Las Vegas. The international incidents show how widespread his enemies are. In January 2024, he was accused of domestic abuse in relation to his ex-girlfriend, Yelin Lama's viral. After being arrested for assault in the Dominican Republic in October 2023, the pattern of violence that had destroyed his relationship with Sarah Molina was being repeated with every new woman he encountered. By 2025, his financial troubles were exacerbated by the IRS selling his jewelry, plaques, and other belongings at auction to settle tax debts. The individual who once flaunted his millions of dollars the fact that jewelry was likely spending more on security and legal fees than he was earning from his progressively unsuccessful music releases exposed his financial instability. His most recent CDs chronicle his decline. Despite his 2020 comeback album, Tattletale, debuting at number 4 due to criticism. His 2023 reggaeton album, Leaned Viva, and EP Black did not chart at all. As the hip-hop landscape evolved, he grew increasingly irrelevant and craved attention. The most egregious evidence of his poisonous influence is the pattern of violence that follows him everywhere. In his battle against the streets, 6ix9ine uses everyone who comes near him as collateral. The idea that Ariella's death was caused by his snitching is not a conspiracy theory. It's the logical development of a trend that started when he agreed to help federal investigators. The message is clear, even if no one has been taken into custody in relation to Ariella's death. Being associated with 6ix9ine is a death sentence, awaiting execution. The involvement of federal agencies in the investigation suggests that they are cognizant of the broader implications of the homicide. This wasn't just a local transgression. It was one of the consequences of 6ix9ine's cooperation. Pledge: as of August 2025, Daniel Hernandez remains a wandering target, surrounded by a path of dead and wounded people. His snitching led to his temporary release from prison, but he was sentenced to a lifetime of looking over his shoulder, aware that his choices may hurt anybody who cared about him. Sarah Molina was able to withstand his cruelty because of her bravery and determination. Ariela Langosta Mejia Polano was not as lucky. The question is not whether 6ix9ine's choices will lead to more fatalities. How many more bodies will be stacked up until his enemies exact their last retribution? That is the question. There is only one way for this story to end on the streets, and it won't be with 6ix9ine living a contented life. The blood on his hands keeps getting bigger until it's his own. Thank you for watching. Click on one of the boxes that is playing on your screen right now to see more videos like this one.